This goes out to Doc Brown and Marty McFly. Set your time machine for Friday, November 26th, 1982, because that is the date on which the Securities and Exchange Commission under President Ronald Reagan ruined our country. And I'm sorry, but that's as exciting as I can possibly make this. Those of you who have followed through with me on many stories, I commend you. You know that it's not that exciting here. I'm just an old guy pointing the camera at his head and telling you the things I know. You're on an app that's full of dancing girls and all manner of entertainment. So this one is different though, right? My channel is just vegetables. And this topic today is the vegetables of the vegetables. This is the okra or something, I don't know. It's peas with no butter. It is boring. And if there's anything I've learned on this planet, it's that often the events that shape your lives the most are the boring ones. And of course, this is also why I didn't go into politics. Because when I went to law school, I found out that all the action was in the details of the Internal Revenue Code and in committee hearing rooms where they went over regulations. And that's where billions of dollars exchanged hands, and that's where your donors expected you to produce. And it is boring and dry stuff, and I've got just enough ADHD that I could not stand that kind of a thing. I was not the kind of person who would be able to stand putting on an entertainment show for people and telling them that the election was actually about men wearing women's dresses or something like that, when it was actually about who is going to get a $10 billion tax break. That's what the government is all about. That's what it's about to be in Congress. And it's just really boring and dry stuff. And you only live in this world once, right? And I couldn't spend my life doing that. But I'm going to ask you to spend a few minutes doing that, because what happened was they changed the regulation that had forbidden corporations to buy back their own stock. Back in 1934, they passed the Securities and Exchange Act to regulate Wall Street because of the disaster they had caused in the Great Depression. And of course, that was only the latest in a series of problems that the unregulated market had given us. But the idea of the Roosevelt administration was to crack down on the excesses of Wall Street and the bankers and keep the kind of wild speculation that had occurred from happening again. And one of the things that they identified as a possible source of stock manipulation was the idea that a corporation might buy back its own stock, right? You could drive up the price, you could manipulate the stock market if the corporate board of directors could just vote to buy the stock back. So they were worried about this. But 50 years into it, the SEC got pretty confident that they were getting good at regulating things. In fact, the change I'm going to talk about doesn't even appear in their little annual report to Congress as among the significant things they did that year. So often the significant things that actually affect your life are the most boring ones. And that's why it's so difficult for people to actually oversee their own government and for us to self-govern. And this is an example of that. Now, what you want to do, and I'm not high-tech enough even to put the document up on the screen for you and then talk over it. So I'll make a separate video where I'll give you some screenshots of these things if you want to read them for yourself, if you really want to eat the vegetables. The place where they made the change was 17 CFR Part 240. That's the Code of Federal Regulations, Volume 17, Part 240. It was published in the Federal Register, Volume 47, number 229, Section 5333, a 5 followed by 4 threes, okay? And there are, I expect in the comments a flood of actual experts, people who were corporate lawyers, people who were investment bankers, people telling you all the reasons and rationales for the change that they made. But I'm just going to tell you what happened to us little people, and what happened to you, and what happened to your hometown was all because of this thing that they've got lots of great justifications for. All kinds of things about correcting market inefficiencies and allowing corporations to do what they should do, and if they abuse it, yada, yada, yada. That's not the rules' fault. That's not the law's fault or the government's. That's just the kind of thing that happens from time to time, and then you have to bail them out. But they changed the rule to allow, under certain circumstances, supposedly, like there were going to be some conditions, and they weren't just going to let you go hog wild, so they said, the corporation could buy back its stock. You say, well, what difference does that make? so the corporation buys back its stock, pays its shareholders off, that, you know, money goes around and we all get rich. No, well, we don't all get rich, because what they did, what they engaged in, was called corporate raiding. In other words, groups of investors, say I'm a rich guy, I get together with my other rich buddies, we pool some money together that we want to play with, right? And we make our pile of so many millions, and then we use that to go borrow even some more money, and then we make a big pile. And we can buy enough of the stock of a publicly traded corporation that we can get control of it, and we can put our guys on the board. Then we drive up the stock price of this company that we own a significant portion of. How do we do that? Well, the main way they did that was by firing people, laying people off. While you were recovering from Thanksgiving, on the Friday after Thanksgiving of November 26, 1982, they were ruining your life. They were planning to fire millions of us. You fire people, and that reduces your costs short term. Not only that, but you sell off portions of a company that maybe are a little useful, but they're not as profitable, but somebody else wants them. You know, maybe you've got your own delivery and distribution system, but FedEx would like to buy that from you, and then you could just pay them for a little while. In fact, you could make maybe say a year's agreement with them to do your deliveries, and you could do it at a low cost, but in the future, of course, the cost would go up. You don't care, because you're going to be gone by then. You're going to pump and dump the stock. So now you sit on the board of the company, all right, and you say, oh, here's this company, they're manufacturing glassware in Ohio, and there'd be a good book you could read about Anchor Hocking called The Glass House, where they show how this happened to the same profitable company in Lancaster, Ohio, about 7 or 8 times. Investment group gets together, you come in, you sit on the board, you drive up the stock price short term, and then you buy back the shares from those very investors. They can sell their shares, which also causes the buying of the shares themselves caused the price to go up, and then they sell them carefully so that they don't make the stock price plummet. But meanwhile, they're looking very good to Wall Street, because they've been destroying things and selling them off. They've been laying people off, ruining people's lives, and making themselves rich. So what they're able to effectively do through this process is to take all that borrowed money and put that debt onto the corporation and cash out the stock. Then they can walk away and leave the mess for the next board of directors to take care of. The next people that are actually interested in the company doing things, they have to clean up the mess and try to figure out how to make what's left of that company profitable again. Sometimes they have to buy back the very things that the last corporate raiders sold off. And as you can well imagine, that just continues to either load them up with debt or cause them to issue more stock that makes them vulnerable again to a hostile takeover. I'm going to leave it at this for now, because, like I say, I will make an addendum video that has examples of screenshots of the very kind of boring stuff that a person has to delve in to see this. And even when you see it, it's not going to say, oh, here's how we're ruining your life. It's just going to say, oh, here is how an issuer can recover their own stock, how they can purchase, an issuer purchase of stock. You'll see the words that they use. And it's not glamorous, it's not interesting, it's all vegetables, but this is how it happened to you. Every little town was destroyed by these people because your industries were destroyed from this one little change brought on by the Reaganites, who thought the free market could take care of everything. Well, the free market doesn't take care of everything. Unregulated capitalism has never worked anywhere it's been tried. Regulation is essential to a functioning free market.